Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Joining us on the line now is Amy White. She's a writer, author, literary agent and book editor from South Yorkshire. She's the founder of Hiking for Healing annual retreats on the Camino de Santiago, the CEO of The White Editorial and creator of the Book Publishing Guide, an online course for aspiring authors. Hiking for Her, Loss, Lust and Life Lessons on the Camino de Santiago is her debut memoir. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me. Very exciting. I've never been on the radio before.
Oh, lovely. Oh, I'm excited for you. And congratulations on your book. It must be exciting also to have that out there in the world.
Oh, thank you so much. It is really exciting. It is. I've you know, as a writer, I've written quite a few books actually as a ghostwriter, but never before has my own name being on a book. So yeah, it's super exciting.
Oh, and it's obviously a personal story as well. You're putting yourself out there as well. Has that been challenging?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was never meant to be a book that other people would see. You know, it was actually based on a tatty little journal that I took with me on the Camino de Santiago, solely for my eyes, you know, and yeah, it ended up turning into a book during the global lockdown when the pandemic hit. It's a funny story, actually. My mum stole the journal because she was so bored and she wanted something to read. She ran out of books and she started reading the journal. And it was actually her who said to me, Amy, we're in a global lockdown. You've got nothing else to do. You need to make this into a book and see what happens. And then it was born.
Oh, fantastic. So what made you do the Camino de Santiago in the first place for the first time?
So it was actually the death of my grandmother that inspired me to do it. And by the way, we don't usually say grandmother in South Yorkshire. We say nanan. Nah. So yeah, it was my dear nanan Jean. She died, and it was my first ever experience of a significant loss. And as you know, in the UK, it's not like we're very well trained in how to deal with our emotions and, you know, how to speak openly about our emotions. And I didn't really know what else to do with the grief. And I kind of got myself into a bit of a sticky situation with my mental health. And I remember when I used to live in Spain myself, I used to live in Valencia. A friend of mine used to do the Camino every single year. And he said that was his therapy. You know, he didn't do traditional therapy, but what he did do was the Camino de Santiago. And I thought, you know what, I've got nothing else to lose. Like, let's just give it a go and see what happens.
So did he give you lots of advice and tips on what to do and what not to do?
He did, because honestly, I was so underprepared. Like, I live right next to the Peak District in Sheffield, and I had never hiked a day in my life. Hiking was not a hobby of mine at the time. So he really kitted me out. His name's Pablo. Pablo, if you're listening, muchas gracias. Because he was the one who said, Amy, you need hiking poles. You need to take your own sleeping bag, you know, for the albergues that you'll be sleeping in, you know, make sure you take your mosquito spray. And he was the one who kind of kitted me out with his stuff, actually, before I went. So,
and in terms of... Yeah, in terms of training and things, so you'd never done hiking before. I mean, this is a full-on thing to take on. How much time did you spend each day walking, and how long were you walking for in total? I mean,
yeah, good question. I should have trained, but I didn't. But so I ended up taking 1 month to do the Camino. So I did the Camino del Norte. So I started in Santander. And I was a slow walker, so some walkers would do it quicker than I did, but I did it in a month. And every day, I would say the Camino, it's between 16 kilometers up to sort of 30 kilometers. So it's somewhere between there. And as I say, because I was such a slow walker at the time, and I hiked half of it in my Georgia Asda flip-flops because my feet were just so swollen.
Amy.
I know.
I bet Pablo didn't tell you to do that.
Pablo did not tell me to do that. Pablo told me to buy proper hiking shoes and break them in. But did I listen? No, I didn't. My hiking boots were still squeaking as I took to the Camino. So, but in any given day, you're going to be spending between 5 and 8 hours a day walking.
And how did you find that, having not done it before? I mean, it's a big deal to do 8 hours walking in one day and then have a rest the next day, but have to get up and do it all again is a challenge.
It was a challenge. And to be honest, because I'd never hiked a day in my life before, like I nearly did give up. And that is something that I outline in the book. I even booked a flight home, booked my flight to Gatwick and then a train from Gatwick to Sheffield. I was coming home, like I couldn't do it, nearly gave up. And it was actually I met a waitress in one of the little tiny cafes that there are on the Camino del Norte. And this waitress actually had MS, which is the same illness my grandmother died of.
Oh,
and
wow.
I remember meeting this girl, and this girl looks down at my hiking boots and she looked me in the eye and she was like, "Oh, Amy, I'd love to do what you're doing right now. What a privilege." And it just floored me. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing giving up? Like, yes, I've got blisters. Yes, I'm sunburnt. Yes, I'm absolutely knackered. But this is an absolute privilege to be able to do this. And it's because of her that I actually finished it. So yeah, thank you to her. I don't even know her name.
Isn't it amazing, these little things that people can say? And as you say, the fact that she had MS, which is what your grandmother had that probably really, really hit home all the more. A little sign from your grandmother, maybe.
I believe so. I am of the belief that we do get little signs from the people we love who have passed on. And I still do. I still believe I get little signs from my nanan that she's okay. So yeah.
Yeah, lovely. So, I mean, how did you do it in flip-flops? Whenever I wear flip-flops, I mean, like living in Spain, you know, you have winter shoes and you have summer shoes. And the first few times I wear flip-flops, once the summer hits, I get blisters between my toes every single year. Like, it takes a while to get back into wearing flip-flops. That can't have been better for you, was it?
Well, you see, the mistake I made was that I got hiking boots that were in my size. Right? So I'm a size 7 shoe in the UK. I got size 7 hiking boots. Now, for anyone listening who wants to do the Camino, don't do that. What you need to get is a size up, because when you're walking 8 hours a day, your feet actually swell. So they actually become another size.
And you're wearing thick socks as well, generally, aren't you?
And of course, yeah, you've got to wear your hiking socks, right? So my feet were getting so swollen. Obviously, they were so blistered at first because I did everything wrong. Everything you could possibly do wrong, I did it wrong. And in the end, I ended up hiking, the last few kilometers in my Asda flip-flops, which was very embarrassing. But, I learned the lessons. And by the end of it, I was a pro hiker and I knew all the tips and tricks with. Have you heard of the Vaseline trick?
Oh, not sure.
Right. So what you need to do in the morning when you get up before you go for your hike, you need to ice your feet like you're icing a cake with Vaseline. And I'm talking like putting Vaseline in between your toes, on your heels. And that actually stops you from getting blisters in the first place. It's an absolute lifesaver.
Okay. Oh, amazing. So did you discover that halfway through then?
Yes, via a fellow pilgrim who had wonderful feet and no blisters in sight. And I said to her, think she was from the Netherlands. I was like, how do your feet look like that? And she was like, oh, I just use Vaseline every day.
Like, it's so
obvious.
And
then from then on, I used the Vaseline.
Oh, brilliant.
So obvious, right? And I never got another blister. And I've done the Camino de Santiago every single year since. For the last, it's been 8 years now. Wow. And I never get blisters on the Camino.
That's amazing. So how do you feel the experience kind of changes or doesn't each year doing it? Because I guess the first time is such a profound experience that you obviously, despite everything we've just talked about, enjoyed the fact that you've gone back and done it every year since. So how does it change each time?
I mean, you know what? I would just treat it as every time is a completely different experience. So although the path itself is the same, you're going to have a completely different experience every time, because it depends on why you are doing the Camino. So the first time round when I did it, I was absolutely racked with grief, and my intention was to somehow make sense of my own head, just get a bit of breathing room, you know, that was my intention. Whereas like other times I've done the Camino, it's actually to meet people and listen to their stories, you know, and make friends. And another time I did it, obviously I take people with me now, whoever wants to join. And that in and of itself was a completely different experience, because, you know, I wasn't in the mindset of like, okay, I'm here for myself and my own mental health and my own fitness. No, I'm here for them. So I was sort of, you know, making sure everybody's okay. You know, we've got all age ranges that join us. You know, the youngest we had was 17 and the oldest on the team was 70 years old. So, you know, just making sure everybody's okay, and also witnessing their breakthroughs as well, because it's when you do the Camino de Santiago, it's not just about your experience and your story. It's about the stories that you hear. And honestly, every pilgrim you meet on that Camino is there for a reason, and they're all interesting. They've all got a super interesting story as to why they're there. So yeah, very different every time.
Yeah. And just that in itself must be very different for you when you're suddenly responsible for other people. If you're taking other people, you know, when you're on your own, you can take as long as you want. You can take breaks when you want. You can sit down and have a cry or whatever in order to get yourself through it. But once you're responsible for other people, I guess you can't do that so much. You have to make sure everyone else is all right and do what they want to do, I guess.
Of course, yeah. I'm always holding up the rear. You know, everybody knows that Amy's at the back, and no matter what, they're not going to be alone if they don't want to be. You know, I'm there. And although obviously it's a completely different mindset that you need sort of going into it, gosh, I just absolutely love it. Just the fact that I can be with people, you know, going through really tough stuff, and just watching them sort of take a load off and connect with nature and have their insights, right? Because, you know, it's not just a sort of like an old wives' tale of like, oh, go for a walk, you know, you're feeling rubbish, go for a walk and clear your head. Like, there's actual science to it. You know, like when we walk, we connect the right and left hemispheres of our brain in a different way. So we're actually in better stead to cope with trauma and stress. Wow. So there's real science to it. And, you know, I've taken a lot of people with me in the past that they don't want to do traditional therapy. They don't want to sit down still in front of someone that they don't know and sort of open their heart up about, you know, their grief or their trauma. Like for them, they just wanted to be in nature and in some sort of community that sort of understands. And a lot of the time we didn't even talk about, you know, the grief we were going through, and most days it was just little mentions of our loved ones, like, oh, you know, this time Nan and Jean said this to me, and, you know, and we're just sharing these stories. And I think that in and of itself is very, very healing.
Oh, definitely. I was going to ask you if people that you met, and particularly people that you were taking on the walk, did open up and share their stories with you and explain why they were there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we had all different kinds of nationalities there as well. So there were Brits, there was a guy from Pakistan, there was a father and a son from Austria. There was an American woman as well, and everybody started sharing in their own way, and everybody had such different stories. And, you know, there were stories like mine, obviously, of family members who had sort of passed away through illness, but there was also, you know, people who had died via suicide as well, and like those heavier topics. But somehow it didn't feel heavy. It's not like it was a walk, you know, more this group of people mourning, you know, and miserable. It wasn't like that. It was more about their lives, actually. It was more about celebrating those people who were in our lives and, you know, doing something meaningful in their name. And a friend of mine, he actually, when we got to Santiago de Compostela and it came the time to get our pilgrim certificates, which you get at the end of it, he actually decided to put in the name of his stepmom, who was very ill with cancer at the time. And, you know, he was able to kind of go back to the UK and be like, look, like, I you know, you did this Camino. So yeah, it's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. It must be so weird when you get home afterwards, a real kind of, you know, a lull, which you can sometimes get just from being on holiday, but to have all that interaction and share so much with strangers, you know, at the start. And I bet you feel so close to these people at the end, and then having to say goodbye and go back home must be kind of weird.
Oh, gosh, it is. It is. You know, just like you said, even if you just go on holiday and you come home, it's always like a weird kind of feeling of ungroundedness. But I'd say on the Camino, you're in a bubble. It's this special bubble where you do things on the Camino you would never do at home. It's not like you'd be walking down Sheffield High Street and strike up a conversation with a stranger and be like, you know what, I'm going to share my trauma with you. It just would never happen. So, you know, you're leaving this sort of bubble where you've experienced miracles, you've experienced breakthroughs, you've made super fast friends, right? And then all of a sudden you come back. But I'd like to think that, you know, you do almost, sounds a bit cliche, but you almost bring a little piece of the Camino de Santiago back with you in your heart, you know, and the idea is that you implement the lessons that you learn, because you will learn lessons on the Camino. I really do believe that. And you can carry that, you know, into the rest of your life.
Yeah, fantastic. So Hiking for Healing, is that obviously the organisation that you set up? So if people want to join you doing the Camino, is that what they look up?
Yeah. And they can send me an email, hikingforhealinggrief@gmail.com. So that's just my personal email. So please do feel free to get in touch. And yeah, we can talk about the next trip. And the book is called Hiking for Her. So if anybody is sort of not ready to take the plunge and they don't really want to send me an email just yet, there's this complete stranger and they want to get a little bit of a taster about, you know, what the Camino de Santiago is like. It's Hiking for Her is the book.
Yes. And have you thought about doing different sections of the Camino? Because there's lots of different sections, some shorter than the one that you've done and some longer, obviously. Have you thought about mixing it up a bit, or is it quite nice returning to the same place?
100%. So I've always done the Camino del Norte. And the reason I've done that is because I love wide open spaces. And although I love people, I also kind of wanted to avoid crowds. And I know that the Camino Frances, which is what actually the most pilgrims end up doing, the Camino Frances, it's become very busy. And there's lots of, it's like almost like a Disneyland for pilgrims, you know, there's cafes every few meters.
Oh,
and all
really?
That. Yeah, it's become really popular, especially with people from the United States, for example, come over a lot. They do the Frances. Whereas the Camino del Norte is just a little bit quieter.
Okay.
And there's less, there are less amenities. On some of the days you will have to take your own packed lunch and, you know, you kind of rough it for the day. But I sort of like that. So that's the reason why I've sort of stuck to that same path. But I absolutely want to do the rest of them. I want to do all of the Caminos because they all look amazing as well.
Because friends of mine a few years ago did the Camino de Ingles, which is much shorter, I think, 5-6 days, something like that. And that was amazing. They said there weren't always a lot of people on that one, so I think that can be a quieter one as well.
Yeah, I've heard of the Camino Ingles, and I feel like because I'm English, I also have to do that one.
Yeah,
just to say I've done it.
Yeah, but again, I suppose it makes a difference depending on the age of people and how much time they can or can't take off from work and things like that, because a month might be difficult for a lot of people, whereas a week is a lot more doable, isn't it? So that could be a different option.
100%. Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually just do as much as you have time for. So while the Camino del Norte, I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometers long, but you can just do the last week, which is what we do at Hiking for Healing.
Okay.
So yeah, because not 99% of people can't just take a month off work.
No.
If they are working, do you know what I mean? So I was like, you know what, let's shorten it to a week, because you still get that pilgrim certificate as long as you walk for 100 kilometers you can officially get that pilgrim certificate.
Okay.
And that is a massive achievement. So yeah, we just do the 1 week.
Okay.
So yeah, as you said, it's much more accessible.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, if people want to get a copy of your book, Hiking for Her, it's called Loss, Lust and Life Lessons on the Camino de Santiago. What's the lust bit?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not going to give it all away, but let's just say there was a bit of a love triangle going on when I did the Camino de Santiago. And funnily enough, there are people on the Camino that are looking for love. And love can happen, and lust, of course, can happen very quickly on the Camino because you are in that bubble. You'd be very, very surprised.
Oh, nice. So was it fun kind of remembering all that and sharing it, writing it down?
Oh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun, especially because I was writing this up during COVID. So we weren't even, at that point, you weren't even allowed out to Starbucks with a friend. We were all locked down. We were absolutely bored out of our minds. And just to kind of revisit those pages, because I wrote every single day on the Camino.
Great.
So there were 30 days of this journal, and just to see it, and I was looking at the photographs as well, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It just completely transported me away from my semi-detached house to Camino, to the Camino. It was such a pleasure to write.
Oh, fantastic. Well, the book is available on our website, TRE.radio, and it's by Amy White, who we've been chatting with. Oh, I wanted to ask you about the book publishing guide as well, your online course. That sounds really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, it's quite difficult when you want to get your book published, and it can be it's guarded by a lot of gatekeepers, is publishing. And book publishing in general can be very, very, very confusing. And I'm a literary agent now. So I've been in the sort of the book publishing industry for quite a few years. And I kept getting the same questions again and again and again from really exasperated writers. And they're like, Amy, I've been writing my book for years and I finally got it, but I have no idea what to do. And like, how do I get it out there? You know, how do I get a literary agent, or how do I self-publish? What are the options? You know, and it just inspired me. I thought, you know what, there needs to be a training course because there isn't one. You know, it didn't exist. So that's what inspired me to create the book publishing guide. And I'm so excited because it is live now. It's finally out into the world, and you know, there are students starting to take it right now. So I'm super, super excited about it.
Oh, brilliant. Nice one. So do you help people get published then? Give them kind of contacts and things?
I do. So yeah, I'm a literary agent myself, which means that sometimes I take on authors myself and I sign them, and I basically pitch their book to publishing houses, like, you know, the big ones like Penguin Random House and, you know, all the kind of big publishing houses that absolutely ignore emails from any author unless you have a literary agent. They do not let you in. So that's something that I do. But I've also supported authors in getting sort of hybrid publishing deals and self-publishing, because self-publishing is a really valid way to publish your book nowadays, sort of like on Amazon and Ingram Spark and things like that. So yeah, I have experience in helping authors do that. That's one of my other passions. It's like the Camino de Santiago, of course, is a massive passion of mine. And then my other passion is just making sure people can tell their own stories and, you know, get their own books out there. I think everybody has a book in them.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Well, great to chat with you, Amy White. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.